Welcome to the Narcissist Slayers podcast with your hosts, Hope Jay
and Lynn Catalano.
Every episode, we focus on recovery from narcissistic abuse. We talk about topics that we believe will help people to identify signs of abuse, learn strategies to cope, and most importantly, how to heal and move forward from narcissistic abuse. We are both survivors of narcissistic abuse ourselves, lawyers, and one of us is an author.
Well, thank you, Hope. My book, Wrecking Ball Relationships, How to Identify, Live With, or Leave the Narcissist in Your Life, is available in many places, including my website, lynncatalano.com.
Because we have been in your shoes, we know how difficult this journey can be. That is why I founded the Center for Hope of Western New York, a nonprofit organization which provides education, support, and advocacy for survivors of narcissistic abuse. You can find out more about the Center for Hope at centerforhopewny.org, and all donations are gratefully welcomed and tax exempt.
Please follow us on Instagram at NarcSlayersPod, and also on Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn, Spotify, and YouTube, the Narcissist Slayers Podcast. You can also email us directly with your questions at narcslayers@centerforhopewny.org.
Welcome back to the Narcissist Slayers podcast. I'm your co-host, Hope Jay.
And I'm Lynn Catalano.
And today we have a very popular topic that we're going to be discussing. In fact, Lynn, I don't know if you knew this, but of all the podcasts that we've recorded over the last couple of years, this podcast, this topic actually got the most listeners.
Wow.
So we thought that we would do another podcast on this topic because it seemed to really resonate with people.
Okay.
And so our topic today is when you hate going to work.
Oof.
How to recognize if your boss is toxic. 10 red flags I think that we're going to explore.
Yeah, which it's interesting because I often ask people, how do you feel on Sunday night as a barometer of where you work? Because if you're dreading it, if you get that feeling of anxiety on Sunday when you're supposed to be relaxing and prepping for the week ahead, and you feel this overwhelming feeling of dread, you're probably not in a healthy workplace. I mean, let's be realistic. But I myself have survived 2 incredibly toxic workplaces, reporting to incredibly toxic leaders. And as a result, I formulated these 10 red flags so that I can help people identify if they are in a toxic workplace. And then we are going to discuss solutions for you. Whether that's this podcast or another, we will see, but we will provide you with some things you can do for yourself as well. So without further ado, let's start the 10 red flags.
Okay. So can I just say one thing first though? Before?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So this topic, a toxic boss, this is something actually that you have kind of really focused on in your career as a coach, isn't it? I just think it's important that our listeners know that we're just not glossing over this, but this is something that you really know a lot about.
Well, thank you, Hope. I have spoken to a lot of organizations about how to prevent this from happening, how to have better relationships at work, what to do if you have a toxic coworker or a toxic client. You know, a lot of people in customer service industries, you'll encounter someone who is really high conflict. And, you know, the solutions that I provide allow you to prepare for that and strategize for that type of person, regardless of who they are. So these red flags are really to figure out if you're in that place, and then what to do from there. I will tell you that it's once you figure it out, you need to address it. You can't ignore it. So it's kind of like having the diagnostic test done and recognizing whatever it is, and then charting a course forward. So yeah. It's eye-opening.
Yeah, but for sure, I think what you had said earlier about dreading going to work on Monday morning. I mean, I think a lot of people don't like their jobs,
right?
But this is a whole different level of dread, isn't it, Lynn?
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
So, I think that and I had I know, but we're going to get to 10 red flags, I promise. But I just think it's important just to give a little bit of background. I know, like, when you and I were talking about this, or before we started recording, I had brought up something that I think it's really important, like, for people who are listening. We spend a lot of time focusing on interpersonal relationships on this podcast.
Yeah.
And particularly romantic relationships, I think. Yeah. And in those situations, it's, you know, you've chosen a partner, right, who is toxic for you. And I think it's more of like, you know, this is something that I'm gravitating towards a person like this, not knowing, you know, my own stuff, not understanding my codependency, not recognizing that I'm not healed, not knowing how to set boundaries. Like, there's so many things that we talk about, you know, when people sort of get involved in a romantic relationship. But when you go to work, or you choose a career path, or, you know, you're just starting out, or, you know, you found this great job and you're really excited and you really want to be a part of this work environment, and then you get into an organization, you know, whether it's corporate or whatever, wherever, toxic bosses are everywhere, right? Everywhere. And so, you know, but you're there, and then, you know, you realize that the person who you either report to, who has this control over your life, who signs your paycheck, for God's sake, sometimes, yeah, right? That this is a person who has narcissistic personality disorder. So it's not because of anything you're not in that sort of, you know, relationship dynamic. You are in a place where you suddenly realize my livelihood, yeah, depends on this person, and this person is abusive and out of control.
I'm so glad you went to this place, because in my last toxic workplace, it's funny, on evenings and weekends, I was writing my book, Wrecking Ball Relationships. And during the day, I was working for this particular organization, which will remain nameless. And I was reporting directly to the CEO. And one day, I promise you, it was a lightning bolt that hit me. And I thought, here, you know, my issues have always been that my father, mm-hmm, was the narcissist in my life. And all of a sudden, I'm recognizing the exact same traits in the person that I was reporting directly to, the CEO. And I thought, oh my goodness, he suffers from narcissistic personality disorder. This is crazy. And so when I started these particular 10 red flags, I recognized that there are a lot of crossovers between people who suffer from narcissistic personality disorder. This kind of expands on those things in the workplace.
Well, sure, because there's still going to be that person,
right,
at work,
right?
Right. Okay. But I think you have a whole different, you know, challenge when, again, it's because, first of all, you didn't choose this person,
no,
right? Okay.
No.
And second of all, a lot of times, you know, you don't want to leave your job, or you can't leave your job, right? And so how do you figure out how to how to navigate this? It's crucial.
Yeah.
And you know, I think a lot of us, you know, I've also been, you know, in work environments that have been toxic, and one particular boss, who shall remain nameless, who I thought suffered from like bipolar disorder, because it was like this, a roller coaster ride.
Wow.
You know, at one minute this person was, you know, kind and supportive, and the next minute, you know, just like in a romantic relationship, it was like, you know, I couldn't do anything right. So I was having all the same kinds of anxiety, that feeling of like, I'm walking on eggshells all the time, you know, like all the same sorts of things. So it was so interesting to me, and just like you, it was a woman, but just like you, I was like, my God, I think that this woman is, you know, she's disordered.
Wow.
Because of the way, you know, that I and others who worked in that same environment felt. So it wasn't obviously just me.
Well, that's it. That's the one big difference, right? is that when you're in a romantic relationship with a narcissist, you feel isolated and it's hard to have anyone else that can understand what you're going through. At least it feels that way. When you're working for a narcissist in a workplace, so that's a toxic boss, that's how narcissists manifest, you recognize that there are other people around you that definitely feel the same.
Yeah,
that's for
the
sure.
morale in the whole office
Oh,
usually
my gosh.
is, right?
My
Everyone.
gosh.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so now I think we kind of have a little bit of like
Context.
foundation,
Yes.
and we can talk about the
Yes.
red flags of a toxic boss. So
Yes.
I'm going to go first on that. So number one, they do not take responsibility for their poor decisions. And where have we heard that before? Right?
Yes, they don't. They absolutely don't.
So can you give like some examples of what that would look like in real life?
So certainly, in leadership, leaders are supposed to be the ones, regardless, when things go right, they're the ones who are supposed to shower everyone else with credit, right? Thank you to my team, thank you to this person, thank you to that person. That's how it works. And when things go wrong, it's on them. They're the ones with the biggest paycheck, they got the big title, they're in charge, they're in control. Except when you're in a toxic workplace, I found that this particular boss that I had, the CEO, he was always throwing people under the bus. Oh, we lost that because of that person. That person did that. Like, it was never his fault. And yet he was the one in control 100% of the time. You could not make a decision. There was no one that could make a decision without his approval.
Right. So, I think that it's like the culture of an office when there's a toxic boss or leader at the top is that you're going to find probably that people are getting fired for reasons that like you said, because they need somebody else to take the fall for them. They're not willing to take responsibility for anything that goes wrong. However, they'll take all the credit when it goes right.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
So, and that's the flip side of that.
Right.
Is that, if you are, when you have a healthy, positive work environment and a good boss, they're going to try to nurture you and help you to grow.
And elevate.
And elevate you.
Right.
And give you the credit when you do something good. But when you
Yes.
have a toxic boss, it's like, they're going to push you right out of the way and,
Yep.
go right up in front and not even acknowledge that you were a part of that.
Correct. Number two is something that they share with all of our traditional lists on narcissistic behaviors. They do not communicate well or sometimes at all. So again, they are going to expect you to be able to read their mind, and when you cannot, when you just do something that they didn't want you to, even though they never communicated that, they are going to take you to task for that, and they are certainly going to punish you in some way.
Yeah.
And
that's part of the course when you're dealing with somebody with narcissistic traits.
Yeah.
Number three, they avoid conflict at all costs. They love consensus and hate disagreement. They do not have uncomfortable conversations ever. Okay, so that's interesting to me because I think like I understand what you're saying about that, but I don't see toxic bosses as avoiding conflict. I see them as like they're the ones that are right and you're the one that's wrong. So they're not it's not a conflict being like if you were to go and try and have a conversation to try to see, let's say for example they gave you a task and you did the task and then you get it back just like in grade school. This used to happen to me. And everything is circled in red and, everything. And by the way, you're a college educated person. It's been a long time since somebody has, corrected a paper in that manner or something that you've done. And then when you try and go and get feedback, constructive feedback, right? That's not, they shut you right down.
That's a later red flag, Hope,
yeah.
But yes.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. But I guess what I'm trying to say is by that's what I think like by avoiding conflict.
I think that uncomfortable conversations are the best thing that you can have in a relationship, and that I believe that uncomfortable conversations take you to the next level. And so whether that relationship is friendship, romantic, professional, whatever, I think that if you can say, hey, when you do this, it's negative to me, or if you do this, that's positive to me. If you share that with someone and they want to be in the relationship and they're not a narcissist, they are going to take it, and you are going to go deeper, and you are going to have a better, healthier relationship at the end of that conversation.
That high emotional IQ thing, right? Yeah.
People who are narcissists will never have that uncomfortable conversation. They do not want to, and they're never going to show the vulnerability necessary to get deep into that. So I think that with a toxic boss, they don't want to talk about like why they did something or why they didn't do something, because guess what? They're the boss.
Right.
It's very much a
my way or the highway
dictator kind of situation.
Yep.
Like
my way or the highway.
They don't want to hear your feedback. They don't want to hear your ideas unless they're gonna
get in line.
Like come on.
Yeah.
So
that's I'm glad you explained that.
Yes. Number 4 is they assume everyone's on call 24/7, no matter their pay level or responsibility level. So that like they're gonna want you to be part of something, but like don't expect any overtime pay, don't expect any like trade-off, don't expect like you're just, you're very low on the totem pole, and yet they expect you to come in early and make the coffee and get everything ready, or buy refreshments for the meeting, or set the table, or make the copies of whatever.
Well, they're treating you like a servant, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so never do you feel like part of the team or rewarded or even acknowledged.
Right.
But
it's expected. And if you don't do it, then they're going to find somebody else who will.
Correct.
And then you're going to be on the, forgive my language, on the shit list.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay. Number 5, they micromanage everyone. Okay.
That one's hard.
Yeah.
That one's hard. So I reported to the CEO, right? So the CEO, I'm hired, I'm a professional, I have been in positions like this for more than 20 years. I have experience. I have a law degree. I am not new at what I'm doing in this role, okay? And he says to me, now I meet with him every week, one-on-one, and he says to me, now I want you to write an email. Okay, I'll send the person an email. And he goes, no, like, this is what I want you to say. And he's expecting me to write down what he's saying. And I'm like looking around going, he's dictating to me like I'm not his secretary. Like he wants me to write down this email. And so then I say to him, okay, I'll go back to my office and email this person. And he says to me, don't forget to email the person. And then I get back to my office, which is, 35 seconds away. And he's already sent me an email saying, don't forget to email the person. And then on top of that, he's already contacted the person that he told me to email.
Oh, wow.
Telling them what he told me to
write.
Well,
that's a great example of micromanaging. I mean, that's almost to like
the nth degree.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I think it must be exhausting.
Why do you think they do this? Because they don't trust anybody else?
Correct.
Okay.
I cannot delegate authority because we do not trust anyone else to do anything. It's all power and control. We go back to true narcissistic behavior. Has to be in control all the time. And I thought to myself, this must be exhausting. Like, how does he sleep if he's micromanaging every employee? And there's 1,100 employees.
Right.
How is that possible?
Yeah, no, and again, it's not about like an employee growing or learning or evolving, right?
The complete
opposite of it.
Yes, no, not at all. Number 6 is that they have no boundaries, so they email and text and call at all times, evenings, weekends, holidays, whatever. Because guess what? When they have an idea, they need it to be validated instantly. And so whatever it is, I promise you, could have waited until Monday. But in their mind, and this is very like self-centered, I am so important behavior. Okay, this is all about, I have this great idea and I need you to respond to me right away.
Right.
And so I remember I purposely did not respond to whatever the because I knew it wasn't an emergency. I was a professional fundraiser, by the way. There are no emergencies in fundraising, okay? So he had texted me over the weekend, and so Monday morning I went in for my meeting, and he said, "You didn't reply to my text. Why didn't you reply?" "Well, I had to tell you." "What did you have to tell me?" "Blah, blah, blah." "Okay, I'll take care of it today." Like, again, it was not necessary. Well, I don't think he was like, tallying up the strikes against me.
Well, oh, sure. Well, I think, this personality type is accustomed to having people jump when they say jump.
How high?
How high.
Yep.
And to have somebody not immediately fall in line is a huge affront to their, that power and control thing.
Yes.
So they're going to view a person who does attempt to try to set some boundaries around things as a threat.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. You're making his case.
Yeah. Okay, so number 7 is they completely ignore turnovers, and by turnovers we don't mean the pastry. We mean
correct.
We mean people who are leaving the organization.
Yeah. So that particular organization I worked for, the HR director, who was very short-lived in his position, by the way, presented to the board that this organization had 25% turnover in 1 year. 25%. That is a humongous amount, okay? And what that does is that literally creates the culture where no one feels secure in their position,
right? Because
people are leaving or being fired all the time.
Right. And there's and it's chaotic and unstable.
Oh, but what do narcissists love?
They love chaos. And, the more chaos there is, the more that they thrive, right? They create chaos.
Because they get to be the savior.
That's right.
So he gets to go tell the board how terrible that director was, or how terrible that person was. And he's the good guy. Remember, he's the good guy.
Oh, and by the way, I think it's really important that their loyalties change on a dime.
There is no loyalty.
Well, but that's the thing, is you might be the golden boy or the golden girl, for today. But if you get on the wrong side of this narcissist tomorrow, you're going to be out.
Bye-bye.
And I think we see that pattern, in life.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
We see that pattern in and this is in an organization. It just creates chaos. And instability.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Number 8, they do not plan; they just react. So I have had a long tenure with organizations where there was great strategic planning. There was great thought about, a 1 year, a 3 year, a 5 year, a 10-year plan. So in this particular organization, I never even heard the words strategic planning, which I should have been a real indicator, okay? But what they did was, anytime something happened, so let's say there was a trend and there was perhaps a need for something, they didn't even think about it. They just reacted. They said, "Everybody, we're going this way and we're doing this." And guess what? When that didn't work out, they threw somebody under the bus for it and then said, "Everybody, we're going this way." We just pivot to the other way. It felt like such a maniacal pivot that we were doing some horrible version of the hokey pokey. Like, it was like, this way, no, this way.
Right.
And what happens is your organization has no strategy. The strategy is just keep reacting. So that's a huge red flag.
Yeah. Oh boy.
Yeah.
So I think, how can you even know what's expected of you? There's no way to know, it just causes, I think, so much anxiety and people who have to sort of live in that space.
So then everyone's hypervigilant.
Hypervigilant all the time. Right.
Well, that's a narcissistic relationship, right?
Right.
That's, yep.
Are we on number
9?
Okay. So number 9 is they are opinionated without any positive reinforcement. So quick to offer criticism, but not coaching. And I think we've kind of touched on that a bit throughout the conversation.
Yeah. Because, so like, you know, in a good leader, you want good leaders groom the next level of leadership, right? Good leaders explain to you how to be a better leader, how to do better, how to get the job done in a better way. They convey their level of experience to others. This particular style of leadership shuts people down, tells you you're wrong, but doesn't tell you how you can do it better.
Right. So then where are you?
We're in the wrong place, clearly.
I mean, but like you're sort of afloat, right?
Yeah.
And you know,
and dreading Monday morning.
Right. So Lynn, I mean, this is all really, really important information.
Wait a minute, I got number 10.
Oh, number 10. I'm sorry. Yeah, we need to do number 10. Yes.
They like to focus on short-term goals and short-term optics, but they never get to the root cause of the problem. So, you know, often this was the kind of place where they would see that morale is down, because I'm describing this to you through the 10 flags, and you're saying, how could morale even be anything good? Like, you can identify just from that obviously morale is low. So the CEO saying, oh, morale is low, we should do something. And so he would buy donuts for all the staff.
Okay.
Well, this is a Band-Aid solution.
Right.
And the employees are going, donuts? How about, you know, giving me something, a real environment, right? A real nurturing work environment. And what does that mean? I'm not talking about hugs, people. This is not what a nurturing environment provides. I'm talking about investing in employees and educating them about things. I'm talking about having leadership courses where you can educate people about how to be a leader. You know, in particular in a healthcare situation where you have people who are nurses, perhaps. Nurses are not educated in how to become a nurse manager or a leader on their floor. And so that type of thing is a learned behavior, and you need to help people. They will only appreciate that, and you're investing in them. That provides loyalty. That gives people a reason to stick around. This particular organization that I was at, someone said to me within my first 6 months, they said, I've never worked for an organization where I felt like everyone was stabbing each other in the back. And that is an awful thing. And they need a completely culture makeover, if you will.
Right.
But what that tells you is that these are non-negotiables. These are not like things that you can get past. These are not things that you can say, it's okay.
Right. Well, I think sometimes, you know, and I know that this happens in big organizations and small organizations as well, but that people acclimate to crazy, right?
Yeah.
It's like you kind of, when you talk about a toxic work culture, and, you know, I've seen it happen in some big organizations where I've worked, that, you know, people sort of get blinders or get blinded to, you know, how they're being treated and how other people are being treated. And then I think oftentimes kind of like assume that and assimilate into the culture because it's a way of survival, right?
So how different is that from being in a relationship with a narcissist?
Exactly, Lynn, right? So, I mean, the feeling of helplessness and hopelessness that people feel when you feel like you have no control over your, you know, your career advancement, you know, particularly this person is writing, like I said earlier, they're writing your paycheck. So there's a level of like you're dependent on them for your, you know, your security, for your financial stability.
Correct.
So this is a very complex situation.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think that I don't want to do short shrift on the, you know, how we can sort of help people.
Yeah.
So I think what we'll do is we'll save the, you know, the commentary on, you know, addressing all of these sort of red flags and issues. And Lynn, you can help our audience, you know, our listeners with your expertise because, you know, you've actually been a coach and gone into organizations to try to help turn around this toxic culture. and we can try and expand upon this stuff when we do part 2
Yes.
of our podcast.
Definitely. Until then, if you're looking for more information about what you can do for yourself, please make sure to consult my blog. I have written at length about toxic workplaces. They appear on the Center for Hope, WNY.org website or lynncatalano.com. So
Yeah.
please go back and look at those older blog posts about toxic workplaces. At least you'll have something until our part 2.
Yeah. And one more thing that I would like to mention is that we are heading into the holidays. Our next podcast is going to be, we do this annually. We talk about how to survive the holidays. If you are in any way involved with, or you have a narcissist in your life, or an ex-narcissist that you still have to contend with. But also at the Center for Hope of Western New York, this is the holiday giving season.
Yes.
And we have an annual fundraiser called the Beacon of Hope Fundraiser. It's a virtual fundraiser, but you can find out more about the fundraiser on our website at centerforhopewny.org. Essentially, we are raising money to help support a survivor this holiday season.
Sponsor a survivor.
Sponsor a survivor. And help them to go through our narcissistic abuse education and recovery workshop series, which is a one-of-a-kind workshop. And people are benefiting significantly from going through this workshop and learning critical skills to be able to get out of these relationships.
And Hope, we have already, in our very short tenure as a not-for-profit, we are like not even, are we 4 years? Or we're 3 years old, yes.
Yeah.
We have helped over 100 people through this particular support.
That's amazing, and we can't do it without your help, without your financial support.
Correct.
So if you're feeling, if you yourself are a survivor, or you, have survivor in your life, if you are feeling giving at the holidays, go to our website, centerforhopewny.org, and give a donation to help support or sponsor a survivor for our workshop. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
On the Narcissist Slayers.